The next trade is it's a famous one. This is one of the big tentpole ones. We're talking about the Chicago Bulls. We're talking about Zach LaVine and Thad Young for Ben Simmons, or Zach LaVine and Al-Farouq Amino for Ben Simmons. That's really just going to come down to Chicago might look at Thad Young as a positive asset that they don't want to trade, even though he's, I believe, expiring. They might just say, take Amino instead because we want to keep Thad Young around. So I know Dives has some stats with Zach LaVine.
Yeah, there it is. So 48.6% in the catch and shoot from three. 1.14 points per possession ISO, amazing, 90th percentile, crushes it as a ball handler in the pick and roll, 82nd percentile, great in transition. Zach LaVine is it, man. I did a video and I've been getting killed because of it, because I made a wish list of my top 5 guys. It wasn't necessarily realistic guys, just guys I would love to see in Sixers blue, but Zach LaVine gives you everything you want. I would love to see this guy paired next to Joel Embiid.
Yeah, for sure. And for the people that are saying the Sixers would have to give up more than Simmons for LaVine, the Bulls hang up the phone laughing. If Zach LaVine wants out, which is perfectly possible, I think that there's already some news or some rumors around that. Who are the Bulls getting that's better than a Ben Simmons package for Zach LaVine? Who's calling Chicago with a better offer than Ben Simmons? Because if you guys have them in the comments, I'm perfectly willing to listen to it. But this exercise has really made me more confident that the Sixers will get good value for Ben Simmons because there's so many places he does make sense. Chicago makes a lot of sense for Ben Simmons. As a team that's stuck in a rebuild, they just traded for Vucevic. That's a big that can shoot. That fits perfectly with Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons can cover up some of his defensive inefficiencies. Kobe White is a point guard that they have a lot of faith in. Lauri Markkanen's a guy who makes a lot of sense with Ben Simmons, even if they're going to keep him around. So there's a lot of things on that Chicago team that make sense for Ben Simmons. So I don't think that this is something that Chicago would have no interest in. Maybe the Sixers would have to attach something, maybe.
And I think also that Ben Simmons' game could be opened up a lot more on that team. And I think the same thing with Minnesota when it comes to Ben's post play. But Ben doesn't get a lot of opportunity to put himself in the post as much with the Sixers because he plays with guys like Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris who are more efficient than he is at right this second at those kind of shots. So I think on a team like that where they don't have a lot of guys who can post up, a 6'10 point guard or 6'10 power forward, wherever they would use him as, would definitely bode well in that position. And I think Zach LaVine is if that trade were to happen, I think both teams come away pretty happy, being that Zach LaVine is a bucket, he's a bucket, simple as that. He can score anywhere on the court. He's hitting shots from 30 feet. He also can score at will at the rim, in the mid range, pull ups everywhere. He has it. Personally, out of any trade, unless you're talking about Damian Lillard, and even in this case, I don't think you have to give up as much for Zach LaVine. I think that's the best trade you could make. I even thought that at the deadline. I thought at the trade deadline this year, I think Zach LaVine for a while has been the best asset you could get for Ben Simmons if you want to move him.
Something I want to point out from Dive's stats that he had that really stood out to me was the 2.6 catch and shoot threes per game. That's a low number for a guy that took 8.2 threes per game. And what that means is he can go get his own bucket and he can dribble into a three. And that is exactly what the Sixers could use. And that's what the Sixers were lacking in those situations where it felt like we had to do so much to get offense created. Seth Curry had to touch the ball coming around a screen. Joel had to set a screen. Everything we had to do was so difficult. With a guy like Zach LaVine, he makes offense a whole hell of a lot easier. And I personally prefer this greatly to even like a Bradley Beal trade. I think, and this is a hot take, I think Zach LaVine's a better player than Bradley Beal. He's a markedly better defender than Bradley Beal is. And he's barely less of he scored a couple less points per game on better and more efficient three-point shooting. And to think Zach LaVine has become a more efficient three-point shooter than Bradley Beal is just something that I couldn't even have imagined a couple of years ago. And like I was talking about earlier, it just speaks volumes to the level of work ethic that Zach LaVine puts into his craft. And he's become such a better player than anyone really could have even expected. And a couple comments here. Why would Blazers and Bulls trade their franchise player? Why are they unloading LaVine? Someone said, what was the comment I said? I think the Bulls would have to attach something. No way the Bulls would take him. So here's what I think. I actually don't think either side would have to attach anything. I think this is going to be kind of close to a straight up deal because, like I said, the Bulls kind of have to make a move. Like, I don't think that they're just going to sit on their hands for the next 2 years and keep getting the 8th pick. They didn't even get their pick this year, and they traded a first rounder. And then someone said, why are the Blazers trading their franchise players? They've had the same team for like 5 years, and they can't. There's a clear glass ceiling that they can't break through. So they're going to have to make a move.
And with that, the Blazers, I do want to say, I did see a report today that the Portland told CJ that he's not going to be traded this summer. Now, obviously, teams have said that before, and players have said they want to stay at a team before. I don't know how truthful that report was, but I did see that today. But I do want to say that, like Mark just said, that team's been playing well for a while, and hasn't been winning for a while. And a lot of that has to do with not having good enough defense. And they thought adding Robert Covington was going to do that for them, and it obviously wasn't to the level that they needed it on the perimeter at least. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Also, I think they also have a promising guard at Anthony Simmons coming up as well. So go ahead.
Who is the general manager of the Chicago Bulls?
It's a new guy. Man.
Mark Eversley from the Philadelphia 76ers. So there's a connection, guys. And I fully agree that probably the Sixers would need to add a little bit there.
I think they would too.
I would do it. Yeah,
I would do it as well.
I would consider it depends. Depends, yeah. If Maxi Matisse, how many firsts? It obviously depends what that is. If it's like shaking a first.
I personally think that if that was going to be a move, I think Milton would be the first guy that they'd be willing to give up. I think the fact that you're giving up Ben already, I think his ceiling with Chicago is pretty high. Personally, I do, and I think Zach is going to say, "Listen, dude, I want to win," and he'll probably be like, "Agent, hey, if they're asking, I want it. like I want to go play with Joel Embiid." You know how much easier Zach LaVine's life would be if he played with a guy like Joel, where it's not just him having to get buckets at all times.
That's what we want. That's
what he's saying. Yes, exactly.
He went on First Take a couple years ago and said how much he'd love to play with Joel and he'd love to play in Philly too. I'd have to unearth that clip. Yeah, I'll find that clip and reply to this podcast with it on Twitter. I remember freaking out about it at the time.